not my skill set, nor do I want to learn it.
Sometimes, because I put up stuff which I kind of test
in the wilderness. I don't know if I was the best one to teach them that. However, and although it was a really
that when you said, I was like, oh,
the baby out with the bathwater.
I do know where that.
So for me, rather than doing something half-heartedly or like just half.
Hello, and we are back. Wow. So with that said, we have some wonderful guest queens today on Time to Shine Happiness with yours, the BBs, as always. And Barbara, I love your background, Barbara. I just want to tell you that again. And we wonderful queens, Barbara, I want you because you always bring the power pack guests. So I want you to basically introduce these two queens and we can get into a conversation.
Well, I just have to admit that I met Catherine first through another podcast. And they were so gracious to have me on their podcast of Catherine and Gail on the Women Over 70s podcast. It was absolutely a blast. And then, of course, I said, well, gee, Catherine, we need to have you back. She says, well, I'd like to bring a friend of mine. And it was like, well, of course you could bring a friend of yours. So then we had a conversation with Carolyn, had a great time. Loved the fact that she was living in Mexico. Are you back?
I'm back.
You're back?
Yeah.
I loved the fact that she was, kind of a nomad kind of lifestyle. And I went, this is what women, especially of an age, these are the things that are possible. Yeah. And so I just said, yeah, well, let's bring them on. And so here we are.
Here we are. Wow.
Yeah.
You're the traveling lady. Yeah. I love that.
We can just go ahead. Do you want us just to go ahead and introduce ourselves? Barbara, does that work best?
Yeah, usually what we do, I always ask, because I love I call them power stories, how they got to where they are. And you two queens, I mean, you bring so much wisdom and guidance. I know Catherine, when you was on before, and you always bring the good friends with you. So Caroline, I always call the women queens. As you can see, I've been saying queens.
Love that.
So yeah, just make sure you got that crown on your head and you are royalty. But yeah, if you could start up, Caroline, with your story and how you got to this point in your life.
Boy, that's a big story, isn't it? A story between Catherine and myself goes back many, many years. I'll just say a little bit about myself to begin with. I'm a retired integrative medicine women's physician. Okay, and I live in Minneapolis and have worked at the University of Minnesota at the Women's Health Center for many years. And I have known Catherine for many, many years because we went to college together in the late 60s at the University of Minnesota. So Catherine and I have been connected at the hip for a very, very long time. We've had many exciting adventures together. And of late, then, after I retired, we decided to have the adventure of writing a book together. So that's what we've done. And I'd love to talk about the book. I'm looking for it right now. It's called Beyond Menopause: New Pathways to Holistic Health. But before we talk about that, Catherine, you got to introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you, Carolyn. So Carolyn says many, many years. It's been over 50.
Yeah, right.
That's great.
Let's be clear.
Back in the 1970, 71, we traveled together to Mexico. And during those travels, which was really was an independent study to earn the final credits for graduating. And we happened upon this magical island called Isla Mujeres, the island of women. And there was very little there at the time. And Cancun hadn't even been invented yet. And Carolyn says, I'm going to live here someday. And she's had a condo on the island for 28 years now. So when we gather. I get to come every week or every winter for a bit, and we started to talk about what was really our passions, post retirement. And Carolyn, as she said, has been working in integrative medicine for women all these years. I've been working in alternative higher education for women, mature women, all these years. We've talked about our work a lot, but we never talked about how it might mesh. And so we finally did. We were sitting around the kitchen table on the condo on the island, and said, well, Carolyn said, I want to write a book. I said, I can help you. So there you have it.
There you have it.
See, that's what I love when we come together, especially as women, and really can just produce, the miracles. I call books and everything that we do miracles in our life.
Yes.
And 50 years, we got to put that out there. 50 years?
More than.
Oh my God, went to college together and stuff, more than that. See, some people don't keep friends for maybe 6 months sometime nowadays.
And here was us. We were celebrating that we had known each other for 7 or 8 years. It was like,
that ain't nothing. We're babes. We're babes, Barbara.
And I think we thought we knew each other very, very well, but working on this book together was just a joy because we were really sharing each other's knowledge and perspectives. And I've done a lot of collaboration on books and articles, but this was the best. This was just a really joyous event. And I think our friendship got even deeper through it.
Yeah, I know some people will talk about collaborations and there's sometimes conflict and issues. We didn't have any.
Wow.
We just went along, and we really didn't always know what we were going to say, but we certainly, back and forth. And because I live in Minneapolis, Catherine lives in Chicago, after a stay in Isla and getting the format together, then we did most of it through Zoom and through just emails and back and forth. And I don't know, it worked. I think we were both pretty respectful of time and our commitments that we had, and it was able to work.
Right.
So
just shows you what's possible.
Yeah.
When like-minded people get together, it doesn't matter what their age. When like-minded people get together, things happen.
They do.
And I think that's one of the things that Barb and I love about the guests that we bring on this show. It's like, it's possible. Don't let age stop you.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
when we were thinking about the book, or when I was retiring from my medical practice, I really just thought, I need to tell the stories about these amazing women that use healing and integrative strategies for their health. And I also thought, once I retire, because there's not a lot of integrative docs out there, I want to leave behind something that women can read, maybe kind of a guide to look at. Well, when I talk about healing beyond conventional medicine, what am I talking about? Right. Well, we're talking about different modalities. So I wanted to introduce women to what some of those options would be and how it may align with their belief system.
Right. Right. And there's so many options out there.
There's so many options out there. And not only healing modalities, but other healing systems, health systems that people, I really think, need to know about or could be helped by knowing about it. So, Catherine, I interrupted. But
No, I'm just nodding my head. But I was going to say that I think it was to emphasize that the book shares a lot of stories. Women's stories of what they were, health conditions they were dealing with, and the different modalities that they used and what difference it made. And then, Carolyn, I think it helps to talk about we're not talking about cancer and heart disease. We're talking about sort of common conditions that postmenopausal women deal with that the medical establishment tends to say, it's because you're getting old.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you both queens put that together, because I was just thinking that, being educated and get the knowledge of it is so important. Because with myself, I know I'm probably the youngest one on the screen, but with that, in my late 50s right now, I had to deal in my 40s. I had to get total hysterectomy done. Because they found cancer cells in my uterus. So that was automatically menopause, just like that. I mean, just like that. And the sad part about that was, and I'm not, like I said, I'm put a disclaimer out here. I'm not trying to talk about any kind of doctors or anything like that. I was not given the whole story about it. And I'm finding out between then and then now, like 10, 12 years later, of certain things that's still affecting me that I didn't even know was coming. Then when I go to the doctor, they're like, "Oh, you didn't know that?" Like, right.
Why did you ask about that?
They didn't tell you that? I was like, no. I want somebody just to scream like, "No, they did not tell me all this." But then he'll think that's an issue with my menopause, me just going off like that. But because that's one of the things.
Really, irritability, right?
He'll use that. Oh, you're irritable because of let's give you another medicine for that. And that's the other thing, and that's why going back to what you two queens are doing and giving the information and put in the book is that holistically we need to really hit that on that level and not so much of taking another pill or getting another shot, and then it creates more issues with what you are doing. Yeah.
No, I think that's really true. When we first started writing, we talked a lot about the menopause transition because we felt that was such an important chapter to include. And there's been so little talk about it in the past. I think that's been changing over the last few years. You see a lot more about menopause, which is good, but that's because of the Women's Health Initiative that really came out and said, we scared a lot of women, probably inappropriately. And here's some more new information. Here's some more research.
Yeah.
But one of the things, and I think where Catherine was so valuable in our book is, and the book is divided into 3 parts. And the first part is so important because it's talking about advocacy. How do we make change? How do we embrace a bigger picture for our whole health if we don't know how to do it? If we don't have the advocacy skills, if we don't have a better knowing about ourselves and how we react. And that's where Catherine really added to the picture.
Well, that's where I was able to bring in, because I've worked with an adult learning all these many, many years. And we were thinking about women patients as learners, women as learners in the health setting. And so where's our voice? What voice do we have? What voice have we ever been asked to express when we're dealing with our medical providers? And so we spend a good bit of time in that first section, kind of talking about the different paternalistic versus partnership with our health providers, how to think about the strength of our own voices, how are we going to develop those to be stronger, to be better advocates for ourselves. So that was, I think that's a piece that a lot of books about menopause and even some postmenopause don't include. It's that, who are you as the client, the patient,
as a learner,
the co-learner in this whole process?
Because we are responsible for our own health. Yes, we need doctors, and we need to, if I break a leg or something, I want to go to the doctor. However, they're not the end all, be all, end all.
I remind people all the time that you are your best healer. No one knows you better than you if you're really willing to look at how you learn, how you change, how you grow.
And it goes back to that, having that knowledge, because, after I had, just going back to my story with the hysterectomy and having that done, I found out 5 years after that from women that really deal, like you said, advocate with the holistic part of it. They said, Barbara, you didn't even need to do that, because we could have showed you some other alternatives because of that. And the only thing in my mind was the doctor was saying, you need to get this or else you're going to basically die. your life expectancy is this small, and that's, I hate to say that was a scare tactic, and I didn't get a chance I didn't know there was other alternatives for me. I just knew right then and there I wanted to live a little bit longer, and hopefully I can help other people on this earth to get where they needed to go. So I just took what the doctor told me. And then after the fact, the menopause and all that kind of stuff just kind of raveled from there. So that's why I really love that. What are you two doing? Because you're putting it out there saying, hey, this is what you can do. It's not have to be the pills. It doesn't have to just be this. We've been there. We did the studies. We know what's going on. And there's an option. See, that's the thing that I want to say. There's an option. It's not options. Yeah. What options do you have? Not just this is the only option.
Right. Exactly.
And that's what that's what happened to you. You were only given this option.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a bit of my story because they told me I was going to have knee replacements and hip replacements. Mm-hmm. And I went, no, I don't want to do that. There's got to be a way. There's got to be something out there that's going to help do so that I don't have to do that. And now that was in my 40s. And now here I am I'm turning 75 this year, and I've never had a knee replacement. I've never had a hip replacement.
That's phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah. Because there are alternatives. Mm-hmm. But I was so grateful that it just, maybe it was God's gift to me at the time. It's just saying, there's got to be another way.
Yeah.
What was that other way? What were some of the things that you did?
Oh, I started in the nutritionals. I started into nutritionals. Well, once you start in one nutritional, so then from there, and then I learned about sound therapy, and then I learned about frequency therapy, and it's like, whoa, there is so much out there. Mm-hmm. Just tuning into the alpha waves and the knowing about alpha waves and theta waves, and now I do a whole quantum sound therapy.
Yes,
it has been amazing.
What you just said, Barbara, is kind of how we talk about the 5 pillars of health, which most people know about. But as Carolyn is fond of saying, it doesn't matter where you start with one of them, because it's going to have this ripple effect, and pretty soon more are going to be involved. So that's a great story.
It is a good story.
And I still take, the nutritionals are absolutely phenomenal, because our food sources themselves are just not there.
Yeah.
And now the technology, like with us, we have glucose intelligent technology. It's available. We just have to get the word out.
Yeah.
We can, through technology, regulate blood sugars.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah. Because if I didn't meet you, Barbara, and what you're doing and how the research, now you're part of that, I wouldn't knew that. I mean, you two ladies here, I wouldn't have knew that there's other options. That's why I feel like it needs to get heard even more, because there's a lot of individuals that's going by what the doctor's saying, going back saying, this is it. This is the only option. And holistic, and sometimes, I had holistic stuff, because I hear them say that sometimes.
That's right. So they think it's woo woo.
Yeah.
Or they say, well, go ahead, it can hurt. But
no, that's natural. That's natural stuff. Because, when you think about it, and I'm going way before we were all born, and I think about all our ancestors, they dealt with just natural things. They didn't have all this medication. Mm-hmm. They had natural, what they were growing, and, through just natural stuff, plants and everything. And they were pretty good. They lasted a long time. So now all of a sudden we come in with all this, not saying technology is not good, because I love technology. That's why we get it right now. But sometimes we have to look at, okay, let's take ourselves back and what the natural part of it was, so everything else put together. Yeah.
And seeing how the technology has enhanced the natural.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a huge. They have given out now, like, just even words that they're putting out there, like autophagy. It was given a Nobel Prize for medicine, as the latest way for our body to clean itself.
Yes, yes.
Oh, wow.
Oh, right. Oh, I know.
Absolutely.
I would like Carolyn to talk a little, just to mention that the common conditions that we cover in the book, because I think
that would be wonderful.
I think about our audience today is well, Carolyn, just tell about those and why you chose those.
Well, in the second part of the book, we have 8 different conditions. And the conditions we chose were menopause transition, which we just briefly talked about, and the need for information around that. Sexual health, because yes, as you go on, and this is really for postmenopausal women, there's a lot of information, a lot of stuff that's going on that it is not a topic that's talked about in the doctor's office.
Right.
Yet it's an essential topic in women's and men's life. So then it's about sleep. As we know, that is such a restorative practice. Anxiety, again, a lot of mindfulness techniques and restorative practices can be used for that. We talk about fatigue.
Right.
And that is, I can't tell you how many women come in and say, if I tell my doctor I'm fatigued, he just tells me to go on an antidepressant.
Right.
And I should be depressed. I'm not depressed. I just don't have any energy.
Yeah.
We talk about fatigue and the need for good digestive health.
Yes.
Because often that is not addressed in our conventional healthcare system. We talk about weight concerns. And just even putting it out on the table and all the information that is confusing, but giving kind of a simpler template. Is that right?
Template.
As to move forward. And then, of course, we talk about bone and brain health.
Right.
And talking about things that we can do just to maintain good bones or even to support good bones, and certainly nutraceuticals, supplements, certain kinds of exercise. There's so many things that can broaden the options for women that I think are important. In one of the chapters, and in each of the chapters, we talk about a different healing system. So like you were saying, Barbara, the natural paths are was something that what people went to all the time in the past.
Right.
Now there's naturopathic schools. Certainly not all states have naturopaths, but it's something that might align with your desire of how, what nutraceuticals do I take? What herbals do I take? Well, you need to go and get good counsel, and a naturopath is there to help you. So that just gives you an idea of, in one of the chapters, we talk about sound therapy around anxiety or around sleep, and how that can be, like you said, so calming and create so much relief. So
I think one of the things that bothers me is that there is so much also. There's not enough good information in some ways, and in some ways there's so much misinformation.
There's a lot of misinformation.
A whole lot.
That's how come I think seeking out a practitioner, even though can be very valuable. Somebody who is credentialed in naturopathy or in transitional TCM, acupuncture, Ayurvedic medicine, homeopathy. These are all different options. It's not that you have to employ all of them. You need to figure out what's going to resonate with you and work for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Everything you listed. Sorry. Yeah, I know. I was going to say everything you listed, Caroline. Is it Caroline? I hope I'm saying your name correct.
Carolyn? Yeah.
Carolyn, everything that you listed from your book, I didn't know anything. None of those.
Really? Okay.
In fact, I was even, when you were mentioning them, I was like, ooh, this would be a good way, not just to put it in the book, but take what you put in the book and put some kind of video or some audio to that. Because I was just thinking about how many people, so many people need to know that. And I hate to say, I'm going to put it there. I always, blast people out sometimes. People don't take the time to read. They don't. They want to see, they want stuff just like this. And, sometimes we got to come together with that and say, okay, if you want it so quickly, how can we put it together where we know you're not going to read, but we know you're going to look at a video, and we know you're going to look at a video that's kind of like sparks your interest. So just think about all those
I
ways.
think you're right.
I was just thinking about, oh, we can make it. This is just me with my creativity, because Barbara knows how a video put together. Is just taking each one of those and putting like a small video of this is this, so people can understand how important they need to know this, instead of going back and saying, well, I didn't know, and the doctor just told me this.
And that's the thing, the doctors don't tell you.
They don't. Well, they don't know.
So many don't, and they're not taught.
They don't know any of it.
They can't tell you something that they're not taught. Like one little thing. My doctor, whenever I go I go for my once a year well check, and he says to me, he said, "Oh, I wish all my patients were as healthy as you."
Yeah.
And I turn around and look at him and go, "Well, if you had your patients do what I do, they would be." He's not always crazy about that comment. But yeah.
And a lot of times, just to add to that, they kind of, I'm going to put it, so me telling it again, sometimes they do know certain things, but as the pharmacy, the industry is a huge money maker.
Huge.
I'm not going to try to get totally into that, but we all kind of know that to a certain extent. And if they start saying, well, you just need to just do this or eat this plant or whatever, it's going to take away from, okay, go get that medicine from Walgreens, So sometimes, sometimes they don't know. And then sometimes they kind of do in a sense, but they kind of just make you stay on that, I call it a hamster wheel of medication. And so that's why, going back to you two queens and other ones that are really giving that, being an advocate in the holistic area is so important to keep pushing out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, I can't remember, Barbara, but I think that when we talked before, briefly, you had mentioned something about, I need to find an integrative physician and maybe change my primary care or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was that. And I always tell people, keep your primary care and use them for what he's good or she's good for.
Okay. Yeah.
And if you need, and then find somebody else, and I'm sure you've already done this, who will support you in other dimensions and their knowledge in maybe a different arena.
Right.
But keep that primary care doc because they're valuable too.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. For one, like I had a little cyst that I needed to have taken off. He said, "Oh yeah, I can take that off."
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Great. Thank you.
He's not versed in sound therapy.
He's not versed in sound therapy.
Who is versed in sound therapy?
That's right.
And it's quantum, it's quantum sound therapy, and it's available.
Yes.
And it's just, and so, it's just, I remember one day I was saying something about the Schumann resonance. So it's the heartbeat of the earth, the Schumann resonance. I tell people all the time, look it up. It's the Schumann resonance. It's the heartbeat of the earth. And when we can get even to sometimes just sit in that heartbeat of the earth, we will feel calmer. It helps. Oh, really, Barb? This is, it was discovered back in the 50s, was the Schumann resonance.
I don't know why it has to feel so, so woo-woo to people.
Yeah.
I think if we, my thing is, because I didn't know that either. See, like I said, a lot of things I'm learning from the three of you queens. And I think we need to kind of, again, with this day and age and people kind of just, moving. I'm just learning that you have to show it in a different example for them to really catch on and get it. To not even to the point, sometimes people go way like, okay, if you don't do this, you'll die. Okay, well, whoa, wait a minute now. Really hitting my face here. But if you just explain to them that what Barbara said, prime example, this is how this, interacts. Sometimes just saying, go read it is not going to do it.
It's not enough.
It's not going to do
or
it.
Those good examples that you give, and that's what we tried to do in the book, is take a real person and just say, this was what is happening to her, and this is what she did. And it was, it was helpful. Sometimes it's transformational.
Yeah.
Right.
You got to see that transformation. Yeah.
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 So Barbara, you were talking about the heartbeat of the earth, and it's a really nice segue into the last section of our book, which we call Harmonize Your Body, Mind, and Spirit. Now, of course, everyone's talking about body, mind, and spirit, right? I mean, that's not new, but what we're really trying to emphasize the spiritual aspect of spirit, not religion, not organized religion, but that growing our spirit as we get older and finding, what are the ways that really do that.
Yes.
And we've looked at the relationship, the research between the nurturing the brain and nurturing your spirit, and they're just they're like this. So so we're really looking at ways that women can bring about that unity, and in the face of loss, which is something that of all kinds that as we age we're going to experience all different kinds of loss, and how to nurture ourselves as we go through those transitions. How do we maintain our sense of, whether you call it purpose or why do I get up in the morning? How do I, as you said, Barbara, that you want to make a difference. We all want to make a difference in some way. And so we address that and just talk about how important it is to take time for ourselves. Right. And that kind of ties back to the early part around advocacy, self-advocacy. Mm-hmm. And it's, people talk about it as self-care or self-empathy or self-kindness.
Your own oxygen mask first.
Yes, right. Exactly. Yeah. But that's kind of a tough sell for some women, to say that not only is it okay, it's necessary.
It's right.
We have to do it.
And challenging for women, many women who are caregivers and feel that they can barely get by.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because I know before Mother passed a few years ago, I was her caregiver. And that's when I seen a whole different flavor. When you get older, things can happen. And the more understanding, the more patience, the more thinking about them and not just about you. And I had to do all of that when I was taking care of my mother, because she passed, she just early age, I always say the ripe age of 75. Wow. But she was on dialysis. They told her she wouldn't last 2 years. Well, she lasted 8 years on dialysis. Mm-hmm. But again, not getting the whole thing, like you're talking about the holistic thing, a part of it. She might have been able to keep going if we would have found out information that you queens are talking about. And I know her in her last days, she became very angry. She became very sad and depressed, because she was like, even when the doctor told me, he came in a room I'll never forget that day. A week later, she passed. But before that, we went to her I went to her doctor's appointment with her, because I always would do all that. And the doctor said, we can't do anything else for her. Right. She's just gonna, because everything is she's older now. And if we give her something, it's going to make it worse. And I was like, what? The first thing I was just looking at this doctor like, what do you mean you can't do anything else for her? Well, because it's my mother. I'm thinking like, what? And that just told me right there, well, if this is going to be her last days, I want to make them beautiful for her. Mm-hmm. And, like you said, being that caregiver, you got to look at all aspects of mind, body, and soul of that person. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you got to take yourself, who is the caregiver, to the side for a minute. Somebody's like, oh no, I'm missing out, because I know people I talk to now that take care of their parent. I'm missing out on so much. I got to make sure they go here. I said, you know what? Think about it. When they do leave and get their wings, you don't want to say that too much, because when they get their wings, it's going to be a whole nother story. Sometimes I wish I could hear my mother's voice, even if she was yelling at me. I wish I could hear it now. That would be awesome. So, but I had to make sure I had to step to the side and say, what are you giving them in their last days that they can treasure before they gain their wings?
Right.
And,
that is another way of taking care of yourself too, Barbara, because you were the kind of person that you really wanted to be for your mother in those last days. Yeah. I think so.
Yes. That's another way of that's self-compassion.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it came, when I did that, it's like everything else, like the patience, me tolerating certain things, it kind of went to the wayside, because it's like, okay, now I put myself in, okay, let me see how she's doing and make her happy on her last day. So yeah, I took some days off. Yeah. I put some things to the side for me. Yeah. That's just how it went. And it seemed like everything kind of just smoothed itself out, and it eased on my end and her end.
And hers. Yeah.
Yeah. Even though the point that her last day, I have to say this real quickly, she loved going to those casino boats. Well, I took her to a casino. She won $1,000, so she was happy for like 3 hours. She would like this and hit the jackpot for $500. So I was like, hey, we made a nice day for her.
Oh, yep, that's what she needed.
She needed that. Yeah, because you know how it was bing, bing, bing. I mean, the whole thing lit up.
Yes,
And she
it was a celebration of her life.
Of her life. It was interesting because 3 days later, she gained her wings. I always say when people have to gain her wings. But I'm just so glad she was able to see that. You know,
That's amazing.
Say, wow, that was part
It's
of
a great story, Barb.
That is a great story.
Yeah. But like you said, the holistic side of everything is not just about, it's everything like you all said, the 3 aspects, mind, soul, body, spirit, everything. You got to put all that into effect. Yeah. Wow. Ladies.
You know,
this has been wonderful. I love spending time with the wisdom here. I really do. Yeah. So please let everybody know how they can contact you two queens, because you have so much information people need to know.
You go, Carolyn.
Oh, well, you can contact me by email is probably the best way. I also have a website called womenagingwell.org. But probably if anybody wanted to get in touch with me is that they just email me at my email, simtork9@gmail.com.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. And Catherine?
Well, I'm, yes, I think the best way to reach me is my email, Catherine at Women Over 70, the number 70, womenover70.com. And Carolyn is one of our early guests on the Women Over 70 podcast. And we have, other guests on the podcast also who are talking about different aspects of health and healing. So it is a good companion to what Carolyn and I are talking about in the book.
It is, Women Over 70, and I know you've had both Gail and Catherine on there, but talk about women with passions and stories and ways to live beyond 70. I mean, it's amazing. It really is.
Yep.
And they bring so many ways of healing through journaling, through music, through just anything you can think of, finances. Yes. I mean, it's every piece of, it's everything. So
being a ninja warrior, being a mountaineer. I mean, he's
like, a ninja warrior. Ooh, I like that.
It is.
You give me so much hope. Thank you. I love it. So please, everybody, please reach out to these wonderful queens. We have to, Barbara, talking moving forward. We still got to bring on our guests. We've been doing some some changes, but see, this is what's the heart. This is the heart and the pulse of our show, is bringing you wonderful ladies on and just really giving us the knowledge and wisdom and the guidance. So thank you so much. Barbara, you did it again, Queen.
And it's one of my passions. It's one of the things that makes my heart sing, is to bring information about relevant information that we need and we deserve to have.
Absolutely.
That's it.
And if we don't do it, no one else will do it for us.
Yes. I love it. So next time, please tune into the Time to Shine Happiness show with the BBs, Barbara Ellison and Barbara Beckley. We wish you well. And as always, look for the happiness in your life, more so than just the negative, because it will bring you to a whole nother level. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next week.
See you next time. Bye, everybody.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, goodbye, everybody. And thank you so much for listening to the Time to Shine Happiness show. I'm your host, Barbara Ellison, and I look forward to seeing you next time, where we will have a great guest talking about making happiness the norm rather than the exception. Because, we believe that each and every one of us deserves to lead a happy, healthy, debt-free, abundant life, whatever that means to you. So join us again. And please, to get reminded, hit the subscribe button or the like button wherever you're listening to us, and we will see you next time.